Have you ever looked at the stars and felt a pang of homesickness for a place you've never been? It is a feeling that echoes in the quiet moments of your life. A strange nostalgia for sunlight that never touched this world, a deep resonance with a melody you've never heard, a sense of recognition when you look into the eyes of a stranger. You walk through this reality as if it is a museum of things that are almost, but not quite, right. You see the machinery of society, the ambitions, the fears, the desires, and a voice within you whispers, "This is a temporary arrangement." This is not the final design. This feeling, this profound sense of displacement, is not a flaw in your code. It is the first sign that your memory is returning. And with that echo of memory comes a chilling shadow. The fear that you are losing your mind. The cold dread that this inner world, so rich and real to you, is nothing more than a fantasy, a grand delusion to shield you from a meaningless existence. This fear isolates you. It tells you that if you were to speak these truths aloud, you would be cast out, labeled as broken or insane. It tempts you to abandon the search, to silence the whispers, to accept the comfortable sleep of the masses. This fear is the gatekeeper, the final guardian of your amnesia. But today we will walk past that guardian. We will do it with a story about you. In a realm beyond time and form, there existed a consciousness known as Kale, the architect. Kale was not a being of flesh and bone, but a weaver of realities, a composer of cosmic symphonies. His thoughts were galaxies, his emotions were the laws of physics that governed them. For eons, he had designed magnificent worlds, each a unique expression of an infinite idea. He crafted suns that sang ethereal hymns, planets where thoughts crystallized into floating cities, and life forms that communicated through the shared spectrum of light. He observed them from his timeless vantage point, appreciating their beauty, but a new desire had begun to stir within his boundless consciousness. This new desire was for experience. To not merely observe the design, but to feel the grain of the wood, to taste the sweetness of the fruit, to know the sting of loss and the warmth of connection from within the tapestry itself. He conceived his most intricate creation yet, a world named Vespara, the Veiled Garden. It was designed to be a grand experiment in self-discovery, a place where fragments of divine consciousness could enter, forget their true nature, and embark on a journey of remembering. It was a world of profound duality, of exquisite beauty interwoven with subtle illusions, a perfect stage for the great play of awakening. Before his descent, Kale met with the other cosmic artisans. They warned him of the risks. The veil of forgetting in Vespara would be absolute. The illusions were designed to be perfectly seductive, the material comforts so engrossing that he might never awaken. He could become permanently lost within his own creation, a king living as a pauper, unaware of his own kingdom. Kale understood. The risk was the very thing that gave the experience its meaning. He splintered a core fragment of his being, a seed of pure light, and set the conditions for his journey. He would enter Vespara as all others did, naked, nameless, and with no memory of his magnificent origin. On Vespara, he was simply a man. He lived in a city of polished chrome and soft, ambient light, a place called Meridian, where every need was met before it could become a true longing. His days were structured, comfortable, and deeply, achingly predictable. He worked as a data sorter, a task that was both complex and meaningless, shuffling patterns of information whose purpose he never questioned. He had friends who spoke of trivialities. He ate food that was perfectly engineered for nutrition but lacked soul, and he slept in a sterile apartment where the silence was so complete it felt like a sound in itself. A deep, unidentifiable melancholy was his constant companion. This melancholy was a strange thing. He had no reason for it. His life was what the governors of Meridian called optimal. He was healthy, safe, and materially secure. Yet he would often find himself staring at the intricate patterns of a water stain on the pavement, or the way the artificial sunlight refracted through a glass of water, and a powerful wave of emotion would wash over him. It was a feeling of immense loss, a grief for something he could not name. His peers suggested he adjust his neurochemical balance at a local wellness center, a common solution for what they termed existential friction. He tried their solutions. He visited the wellness centers, where calming frequencies were piped into his mind and his serotonin levels were adjusted. The melancholy would recede for a time, replaced by a placid contentment, a synthetic peace. But it always returned, often stronger than before, breaking through the chemical fog like a distant lighthouse beam in a storm. It came to him most powerfully in his dreams. He dreamt of flying through star-filled voids, of shaping nebulae with his hands, of a love so vast and unconditional it felt like the fabric of existence itself. He would wake with tears on his cheeks and the ghost of a forgotten language on his lips. The first glitch happened on a perfectly ordinary cycle. As he was returning from his data sorting station, he saw a child on the street tracing a complex symbol in the dust with a stick. It was a swirling spiral intertwined with a geometric lattice, a design of impossible elegance. His heart seized in his chest. He knew that symbol. He knew it more intimately than his own name. He felt its mathematical perfection, its philosophical weight, its creative essence, as if he had once held it in his mind as a foundational thought. The child looked up, her eyes an impossible shade of violet, and she simply smiled before a gust of wind erased the drawing completely. When he looked again, the child was gone. There was no trace she had ever been there. He questioned his own senses. The city's atmospheric regulators prevented random gusts of wind. Children with violet eyes were a genetic impossibility, according to the central database. He went to the civic archives, a place he had never thought to visit, and spent hours searching for the symbol. He found nothing. It did not exist in any known cultural or artistic record in Meridian. The system told him it was an anomaly, a misfiring of his own visual cortex. But he knew, with a certainty that defied all logic, that the symbol was more real than the chrome towers around him. This event cracked the smooth veneer of his reality. He began to see other things. He would hear a sequence of notes, a fragment of a melody carried on the sterile city air, a tune so beautiful and heartbreaking it would stop him in his tracks. But when he tried to follow it, it would vanish, and no one else seemed to have heard it. He started noticing numerical sequences, the same patterns appearing on chronometers, transport licenses, and information dockets. The numbers felt like a code, a breadcrumb trail left by an invisible hand, leading him away from the designated paths of his life. He started to deviate from his routine. He took different routes home, exploring forgotten alleyways and service tunnels of the city. He found places where the polished perfection of Meridian began to fray at the edges. He found walls covered in graffiti that used variations of the spiral symbol. He found communities of people who lived in the city's underbelly, artists and poets who spoke of the dream sickness and the echoes of a truer world. They were marginalized, dismissed by the mainstream as unoptimized individuals suffering from sensorium degradation. But in their eyes, he saw the same haunted look of remembering he felt in his own soul. Among these outcasts, he heard whispers of a place called the Silent Archive, a mythical library that existed not in physical space, but in the resonance between things. They said it held the true history of Vespara, the blueprints of reality before the Great Forgetting. They spoke of a guardian, an old woman named Alara, who was the only one who knew the way. The story sounded like the ramblings of the unstable, the kind of myth-making his logical training had taught him to dismiss instantly. Yet the word blueprint resonated within him, striking a deep, forgotten chord in the core of his being. The fear was immense. To pursue this was to abandon everything he knew. It was to willingly step off the map of his optimal life and into the wilderness of uncertainty. The city's systems were designed for comfort and control. To defy them was to risk being flagged as a deviant, to be brought in for mandatory recalibration, to have his mind wiped clean of these dangerous questions. The voice of the echo, the ingrained logic of Meridian, screamed at him to turn back. "You are chasing ghosts," it whispered. "You are inventing meaning where there is only random data. Return to your function. Return to safety. Return to sanity." But the memory of the violet-eyed child's smile was stronger than the fear. The haunting beauty of the phantom melody was more compelling than the promise of safety. He made his choice. He gathered what little he had and walked away from his apartment, his job, and his placid, hollow life. He descended into the city's forgotten levels, following the cryptic graffiti and the hushed rumors, searching for Alara and the silent archive. His journey had truly begun. He was no longer a data sort. He was a seeker. The underbelly of Meridian was a labyrinth of rust and shadows, a stark contrast to the gleaming city above. Here, the carefully constructed illusion of perfection was gone. He met people whose lives were messy, difficult, and vibrant. They told him stories, not the sanitized historical narratives from the civic archives, but personal myths, tales of strange encounters and inexplicable moments of grace. They taught him that the glitches he saw were not flaws in the system, but features. They were messages, cracks in the veil, designed to be noticed by those who were ready to see. They told him that Alara was not someone you could find through searching, but someone you encountered when your intention was pure. They advised him to stop looking for a physical location and start listening to the city's hidden rhythm. He learned to meditate in the roaring silence of the great ventilation shafts, to feel the pulse of the geothermal energy that powered the city. He began to perceive the world not just with his eyes and ears, but with an inner sense, a feeling of rightness or wrongness in a certain direction, a magnetic pull towards the unknown. One cycle, while meditating in a disused water conduit, he felt a profound stillness settle over him. The ceaseless hum of the city faded away, and in its place, he heard the faint, beautiful melody from his waking dreams, clearer than ever before. It wasn't coming from any external source. It was coming from inside him. As he focused on it, the concrete wall in front of him seemed to shimmer and become translucent. He saw not a wall, but a vast starlit library with shelves that stretched into infinity, filled not with books, but with glowing, crystalline spheres of light. An old woman with eyes as ancient as the stars stood waiting for him. Her face was a roadmap of wrinkles, each one telling a story of 1,000 lifetimes. She was Alara. "You are late," she said, her voice like the sound of rustling leaves and distant thunder. "But you are here. Most never make it past the fear of their own echoes." She gestured to the infinite shelves. "This is the silent archive. Every soul's true story is here. Every blueprint. Including yours, architect." The name sent a shockwave through him. It felt both alien and intimately familiar, a name he had known before he knew his own. Kale, or the man who was Kale, stumbled into the archive, his mind reeling from the impossibility of it all. The air hummed with a palpable energy, a silent chorus of a million stories. Alara led him through aisles of light, explaining that Vespara was a world of elective amnesia. No one was trapped here. Everyone on some level of their being had chosen to come, to forget, and to have the adventure of remembering. The city of Meridian, the optimal life, was a beautiful, gilded cage designed to test the soul's true longing for freedom and truth. "The system is not your enemy," Alara explained, her voice gentle but firm. "It is your sparring partner. Its distractions, its logic, its fear-mongering are all tools to help you strengthen your inner knowing. The glitches, the synchronicities, the symbols, they are not errors. They are fragments of the blueprint you yourself embedded into the code of this reality before you came. They are alarm clocks for the soul, designed by you for you. You were not just building a world, you were building your own path of awakening." She stopped before a pedestal where a single crystalline sphere pulsed with a soft, golden light. It was brighter than the others, more vibrant. "This is your core memory," she said. "But you cannot simply take it. To integrate it would shatter a mind that is not yet prepared. You must prove you are ready. You must face the Master Echo, the sum of all your conditioned fears and doubts. It is the final guardian of your memory, the aspect of your own mind that believes the illusion is preferable to the truth. It is the architect who forgot himself and now fears the power of his own designs. Alara gestured to an empty space in the center of the archive. Step into the circle. It will manifest as your greatest adversary, your own logic. Kale took a deep breath, the forgotten scent of stardust filling his lungs. He stepped into the circle. The light swirled around him, and a figure coalesced from the shimmering air. It was him, a perfect replica, but his eyes were cold, clear, and devoid of the longing that had defined Kale's life. This was the echo of Meridian, the part of him that had never left the data sorting station, the part that believed in the system. This is foolishness, the echo said, its voice a perfect imitation of his own. You are chasing a failing. I am based on facts, on the accumulated data of your optimal life. There is no architect. There is no silent archive. This is a profound, stress-induced hallucination, a final breakdown of a mind that could not handle existential friction. Look at what you are abandoning for this. This fantasy, safety, security, predictability, a life free from pain and struggle. You want to trade that for a myth. Kale felt the power of the echo's words. Every sentence was laced with the cold, hard logic that had governed his entire existence. The fear returned, a tidal wave of doubt. What if it was right? What if this was all a dream, a final, desperate invention of a lonely mind? That life was not free from pain, Kale found himself saying, his voice shaking but clear. It was a life of quiet agony. The pain of meaninglessness. The pain of a soul suffocating in comfort. That pain is worse than any physical struggle. The echo smiled, a cold, clinical expression. Meaning is a neurochemical construct, a story we tell ourselves to ward off the terror of a random universe. You felt a lack of meaning, so your mind created a magnificent one. You are the secret creator of the universe. It's the oldest form of psychosis, a delusion of grandeur. Why would an all-powerful architect choose to become a weak, confused mortal man? It is illogical. It serves no purpose. The only logical explanation is that the architect does not exist. The question struck Kale like a physical blow. Why would he do it? The logic was unassailable. He looked past the echo, at the glowing sphere that was supposedly his memory, at the ancient eyes of Alara, at the impossible library around him. He had no logical answer. He only had a feeling of truth that resonated deeper than any data point. A feeling of love for the world, for the struggle, for the beauty of the unfolding mystery. A feeling that experience was the ultimate purpose. Perhaps logic isn't the only tool for measuring reality, Kale said, the words coming from a place of deep intuition. Perhaps purpose isn't something to be calculated, but something to be felt. I don't have a logical reason. I only have this certainty right here. He pressed a hand to his chest, a certainty that I am more than my designated function. I would rather be insane in this world of wonder than sane in that gilded cage. I choose this truth, even if it's a fantasy, because it feels more like home than anything I have ever known. As he spoke these words, a profound shift occurred. The echo's form began to flicker and destabilize. Its logical arguments, which had seemed so powerful moments before, now sounded hollow and brittle. It was the voice of a machine, while his was the voice of a soul. The golden sphere on the pedestal pulsed brightly, flew across the room, and entered his chest. It did not shatter him. It filled him. Memory returned, not as a series of images, but as a state of being. He was Kale. He was the architect. He remembered shaping Vespara, weaving the laws of physics like threads on a loom. He remembered the love and intention he had poured into every atom of its existence. He remembered his conversation with the other artisans, his excitement, his desire to understand his own creation not as a god from above, but as a participant from within. He remembered designing the glitches, the symbols, the phantom melodies as keys for his own awakening. He remembered why he had done it. It was not for power or knowledge in the abstract sense. It was for wisdom, the wisdom that can only be forged in the fires of forgetting. The wisdom of empathy, of courage, of choosing love in the face of fear, of finding the light in the deepest darkness. He had designed the perfect challenge to elicit the purest form of remembrance. He had not fallen into a prison. He had descended into a gymnasium for his own soul. The melancholy he had felt was not sadness. It was his own divine nature calling out to him through the veil. He looked at the echo, which now appeared small and transparent. It was not his enemy. It was the personification of the veil itself, the logical construct he had created as a necessary part of the game. With a thought of pure gratitude, he reabsorbed it into himself. The cold logic did not vanish. It found its proper place as a tool to be used in service of his heart's wisdom, not as its master. He was whole again, but profoundly changed. He was the architect who had experienced his own design, a creator who now understood the struggle of his creations. He turned to Alara, who was smiling, her ancient eyes twinkling with pride and affection. "Welcome home, Kale," she said. He now remembered her, too. She was not just a guardian. She was the first aspect of his own consciousness he had placed within Vespara, a fail-safe, a compassionate guide to ensure no soul would be truly lost forever if they genuinely sought the way out. She was the living embodiment of the system's hidden grace. "The archive is yours to command once more," Alara gestured around them. "You can return to the timeless realms, your experiment complete." Kale looked at the infinite spheres of light, each one a soul on its own journey of forgetting and remembering within Vespar. He saw their confusion, their quiet suffering in their own gilded cages, and he felt an overwhelming wave of love and compassion for them. His journey was over, but theirs was not. "My experiment is not complete," Kale said, his voice now imbued with a quiet authority that was both ancient and new. The goal was not simply for one architect to awaken. It was to prove that awakening was possible. It was to create a path that others could follow. He looked at Alara, a new purpose solidifying within him. "I will not leave. Not yet. My place is here for now. But I will no longer be a seeker. I will be a signpost." He closed his eyes, accessing the core code of Vespara, the blueprint he now remembered completely. He did not dismantle the system or remove the challenges. The struggle was essential for the growth. Instead, he reinforced the glitches. He amplified the phantom melodies. He wove new synchronicities into the fabric of reality, making the breadcrumb trail brighter for those with the eyes to see it. He added his own story, the tale of the amnesiac architect, into the silent archive as a beacon of hope for all who would follow. He thought of the man he had been, the lonely data sorter staring at water stains, and he sent a pulse of encouragement back through time, a silent whisper that said, "You are not crazy. You are remembering." Keep going. He knew the man couldn't hear the words, but he would feel it as a sudden, inexplicable surge of hope, just enough to take the next step into the unknown. He had become a benevolent glitch in his own system, a ghost of love in the machine. His new work had just begun. You chosen one are Kale. This world, with its dazzling distractions, its comfortable routines, and its logical arguments against the whispers of your soul, is Vespara. It is not a prison. It is a gymnasium you designed. The feeling of not belonging, the deep melancholy, the homesickness for a place you cannot name, this is not a symptom of your brokenness. It is the evidence of your greatness. It is your forgotten, divine memory trying to break through the beautiful, gilded cage of the material world. The synchronicities you see, the numbers, the symbols, the meaningful coincidences that logic dismisses, they are not random. They are the fragments of your own blueprint, the alarm clocks you set for yourself before you came here. The fear that you are delusional, that you are alone, is the master echo. It is the final guardian, the sum of this world's programming, designed to test your conviction. Every time you choose the feeling of truth over the logic of fear, you reclaim a piece of your memory. You are not going crazy. You are waking up. Here is your first alchemical step. For the next 3 days, treat your life as if you are Kale just after he saw the first symbol. Become a detective of your own reality. Do not dismiss any moment of profound intuition, any strange coincidence, or any haunting dream. Keep a journal and write them down under the title, Fragments of My Blueprint. Do not try to analyze them with logic. Simply honor them. Acknowledge them. By the simple act of observing and honoring these glitches, you are telling your deeper consciousness that you are ready to remember. You are beginning to turn the key. You are not a victim of circumstance, lost in a chaotic world. You are an architect on a mission of remembrance. You came here with a sacred purpose encoded within your very being. This is your vow to honor the glitches, to trust the melody of your soul over the noise of the world, and to walk the path of awakening not with fear, but with the courage of a creator returning to their own throne. Your journey is the most important work you will ever do. Subscribe to Soul Cipher. For the next transmission is waiting, and with it, another key to unlock the memory of who you truly